Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
So we're going to discuss the recent reorganization of the Walt Disney Company that was announced kind of out of the blue. I wouldn't have expected it today, but I happened to be checking one of the sports business reporters that I followed on ESPN News, and he told me there's a major Disney reorg, and then I turned on CNBC, and there's Bob Chapek. So
I like when your dad told you that Chapek got promoted.
so basically, Disney's kind of reshaping how they do their business. Um, and it's a little bit in the weeds, a little financial. If you have questions, please go ahead and ask them, on whatever medium you're looking at. But they're going to separate out the money making from the creation. So what does that mean? So Kareem Daniel will now be in charge of the media and entertainment distribution group. So he's going to theatrical distribution, Disney Plus, um, ad sales, all the places that make money. He will be leading their operations as well as their sales. Then they're going to create three content groups. So the studios basically stays the same, except the distribution piece will be kind of yanked out. And they're going to oversee Disney live action, Disney animation, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Studios, and Searchlight. What used to be the TV group is now called the General Entertainment Group because they're not really about making TV anymore necessarily. So they're going to be include 20th Television, ABC Signature and Touchstone Television, which is other TV crew entertainment, ABC News, Disney Channels, Freeform, FX, and Nat Geo. And then sports will be ESPN Plus, ESPN, and ABC Sports content. So those will all be just focused on creating content. They're not going to worry about selling stuff. They're not going to be worrying about affiliate fees and all that stuff. They're about creating the content. So the executives that were in charge of those businesses are going to stay the same. They're just going to have a little bit less to do with the back end stuff. The parks stay the same, no changes. Josh D'Amaro still leads that business, as well as the consumer products group that is tied to that. And then Rebecca Campbell, who was in charge of direct to consumer and international, her international part, she still reports to Bob Chapek, but the direct to consumer sort of operations of Disney Plus, she now reports to Kareem Daniel. So, kind of a demotion for her. Kareem Daniel is kind of famous within Disney for being a friend of Bob Chapek's. He's had jobs of escalating importance over the years. He's usually in a job for 1 to 2 years, gets promoted. He was co-president of Imagineering for a time, then went to consumer products, led that business. And now he's in charge of making money. So if you looked at the earnings for Disney, it used to be they would have studio entertainment, TV, parks, and direct to consumer, and that's how they would show who made money. Now it's going to be parks and consumer products and this other group. So they're not going to call out if the movie made money, if theatrical made money necessarily, or Disney Plus. They're going to be the ones who decide where the product is released, and how they're going to, what it's going to cost. So kind of big changes just very recently since Rebecca Campbell just became in charge of direct to consumer. So very quick turnaround over there. So what are your questions, Kyle? You got any? My thoughts?
Well, first of all, I know that they're also going to be, with this, they're going to be investing more in streaming. So it hurts me a little bit that Dan Loeb is probably going to get credit for this, even though it's obviously something that was in the works for way before that.
Yeah, and so they didn't discuss numbers today, but they did announce that they will be on December 10th when they do their investor day. There's also an earnings call in early November. So between those two days, we'll probably get a lot more information. Bob Chapek did not look good on CNBC today. He was stumbling through his words, kind of struggled, but I think we're going to get a lot more information about like what this means for investment later on. This is kind of setting it up in many ways. It was kind of leading to this. I think it didn't make theatrical. What we used to call studios was making TV shows for Disney Plus with Marvel. ABC was making stuff for Disney Plus. It was just, but they kind of always had a vested interest in protecting their distribution channel. And with theaters closed, this is a way studios business can kind of just keep chugging along without worrying about, someone else has to worry about how everything makes money.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the key point is it's like it feels reactionary in like almost short-sighted that they're going all in on this because movie theaters are closed and everything. But when you think about it in the long term, it also makes sense. But I think it initially when people see that they are like, oh wow, so they have a pony that runs the race, and
Yeah,
so they bet on it again.
my concerns are not necessarily about the reorg itself. It makes sense because, a Marvel Studios, whatever show, movie, whatever, it shouldn't matter which platform it's on. They should be focused on just making it good and then, working with the distribution people. But it just kind of felt like this was eventually going to happen. It kind of had to. If you're making Disney Plus original movies, then they're going to be, you don't necessarily want people to feel protective of, you want them to get the money and make sure it makes sense. So I guess the bigger question is Kareem Daniel. He's kind of a rising star, so not people have a lot of experience with him. I know I'd imagine he's kind of has a reputation for being, he has a business degree, engineering, very, by the book, I don't want to say number cruncher because obviously, when he was in Imagineering, they spent a lot of money, but he's going to want to make sure they get a return on their investment. It's not, you're not probably not going to get a lot of crazy, just sort of vanity projects that he's going to support. It's going to be very, P&L focused. Does it make money? Great.
Did you see the after hours market?
I did. It just when last I checked, it was up $5.
A little bit more than that now, but yeah.
Which is kind of crazy because it's just a reorg, right? But now it's up 7 points. Yeah, so and growing. Dang. So I don't know what the investor community thinks, and I don't think there's anything really shocking here, except they're just moving the chairs around the decks. But we knew they were going to invest more in Disney Plus.
Yeah, that was kind of a given. That's why the entire Dan Loeb thing was kind of weird. Like, they should invest more in this. It's like, you don't think they know that? You don't think they're working on that? You can't make a show right now. I don't know if he's aware.
When they announced the Investor Day, they would basically say, we're going to update all that and you're going to show about how we're going to keep investing in this. And then this didn't give numbers because that's the whole point of having the Investor Day. You can't just, you got to be careful how you reveal things when you're a publicly traded company. And they're going to make sure their ducks are in a row. And I think with Kevin, basically, I think Kareem Daniel's taking on the Kevin Mayer role as like the whisperer to the CEO. It was weird. He reported Josh D'Amaro as head of consumer products, but then reported to Bob Chapek as chief of staff. And I think, he's probably the one that's been kind of figuring out like all the numbers on how this, how much to invest and all that. So I think it's not surprising news, but I think it'll be interesting to see where he chooses to invest and how that affects the creative team. Because the creative people, while they're not going to be in charge of profit and loss, they're still going to report to Bob Chapek. And the really only person that seems to kind of get lost in the shuffle is Rebecca Campbell. She's still there, but she looks like she's going to lose a significant amount of influence. And
maybe she can go run TikTok.
Maybe she'll last longer than an average TikTok, unlike Kevin Mayer. So once again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put comments.
And of course, the December 10th Investor Day is going to be virtual. So It'll be streaming somewhere, hopefully accessible to the general public. I would have to imagine it would.
I think it legally has to, because of SEC rules. They might do like a version for the banks that includes more clips and stuff, and then do a public version that is has that stuff edited out. But yeah, I mean, December 10th is going to be a big day. And it's also not lost on me that December 5th is when all the folks that were laid off by Disney will be their last day. I think December 4th is their last day. So it's an era of transition for Disney. It's hard, obviously the layoffs are impacted by COVID, but the others, this I don't think is super COVID related. Just maybe accelerated because theaters are closed. The other thing I think is interesting, he did say, CNBC asked him about the parks, and he says they're running at 25% capacity, give or take a little bit, but that's where they're going to stay until CDC guidelines change, which presumably means until COVID is over. So, it's going to be a while that we're in this current mode.
While we're on that topic, didn't Newsom have something to say about parks again today?
He did. He said that they're actually going to visit parks in other states, presumably Florida, to see how things are going, and that they are continuing to talk with theme park operators. He didn't seem like he's going to get rushed. I'm curious to see how they feel about the way the parks are in Florida.
So it's okay to travel?
What's that? Yeah, he said they have
to travel.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, huh?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're gonna be guided with them, a representative, or if they're gonna just kind of get it in as a mystery, a surprise, so they can see what's really going on. But I don't think it's not going to be soon that we're going to get updated guidelines. If that's if they're just trying to go now, they are continuing to talk with folks like Disney. He also mentioned he continually calls out smaller theme park operators. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're talking about little kiddie parks or what, but 25% capacity is not a lot.
Well, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it's true. It was interesting that Chapek mentioned that, because I know that one of the guidelines that, I don't know if leaked is quite the right word, but what California was looking at to implement, 25% was one of them. So I think that would insinuate that it was more about the radius, 120-mile radius or whatever on visiting. That was more the issue than necessarily the 25%. And also the fact that it couldn't open until the lowest tier.
Yeah, I think that's the big one, right? Because who knows how, who knows when you'll get there, and kind of gives you nowhere to go. So yeah, I don't think it's the 25% that's really the problem. I think it's speaking out of Disney perspective. I can't speak to Universal because I also don't know if Bob Chapek says 25%. Does he mean fire marshal capacity, or does he mean the capacity Disney would use? Because you can stick a lot more people in the park, but Disney kind of limits it to make sure it's not miserable. So there's sort of a legal cap, and then there's the Disney operations cap, which may or may not, which are not the same. But yeah, so anyway, there's lots of changes happening at Disney. Since there's no theatrical business, I guess this kind of makes sense.
That's not true. There's the Empty Man.
Which, have you heard anything?
Becca was looking into it on her flight and found that someone on Reddit claimed that they had seen a trailer attached to something, but it's not on the internet. And tickets are on sale. You can buy tickets for it on some websites right now, and we have no idea what it is. Yeah.
I feel like Empty Man, it's if you see the trailer, you die 3 days later. Is that the way that works?
I mean, yeah, they're on some of those sites. When you go to buy the tickets, it just has the title. It doesn't even have a poster.
Right, because I don't think there's an official poster.
It's very strange.
Very strange indeed. So Disney stock up 7 points to 132. You can catch
only about 8 shares. They'd probably come after me. I think I knew something.
Yeah. Oh, really? Where did you get that money? Just kidding.
It was already in my IRA.
I'm just teasing. It's amazing to me that Disney stock is right now at 132, which is basically, I don't know,
20 below
20
its
points
52-week
away.
high?
What's that? Yeah, 20 points away from
I
its
was going to say
50.
20.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy considering, nothing's open and COVID and all that stuff. So when earnings come out, we'll get an idea of what that means to like a, P&E ratio. But
And that's November 12th.
I believe so. So it's kind of like where it's going to be. I have a feeling it's going to be like corporate Christmas. Like there's going to be a little gift every day as like this reorg because it's not just simple about saying okay you now work here. It's like there's complete structural changes that have to happen. There is no more Walt Disney Television. That's not a thing. It is now General Entertainment Group. They're going to have to come up with a name better than that. And what's it mean for the employees that work there?
GE.
I hear they bring good things to life, but
Kind of makes sense.
It's going to be a wild week. Actually, wild couple months until we get to December. Especially as you mentioned, since they can't create shows, like there's no content to create. Basically, I mean, some productions come back, but it's not like at the way it was. So even Disney Plus, if you wanted to accelerate the growth of it, there's only so much you can do because shows take longer, shows are more expensive, and we'll see what happens. So with that, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Think I'm good.
Okay, so we'll just check, and we'll see everyone next time. And if you have any questions, just email us, editor@laughingplace.com. Bye, everybody.
And you can watch the movie club tonight.
Oh yeah. X2 X-Men United with Mac and the gang at 7:30 Pacific. Bye.